Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where I'm going to start that again, Andy.
Yes.
I nearly said firm fans.
A firm fans.
A firm fan of films. Right. Welcome to the Horror Hangout, a podcast where film fans watch the best and worst horror movies of all time and talk about them and the ones in between, you know. My name is Ben Errington, and today I am joined by regular co-host, Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Hello, Ben. And indeed, hello, everybody. You all right?
Hello, everybody out there. It's just me and you this week, Andy, which feels like a very rare occasion, right?
It's been a little while. We have been flooded in an embarrassment of riches. There's loads of good guests to join us recently. But as much as I miss the extra company and meeting new people, it's nice just to have a quiet one, isn't it? Get together, just the two of us, put our feet up for a casual film.
Just have a quiet night in. You haven't got to bring too much social energy because I feel like it's all just natural, you know?
Yeah, I talk to you all the time.
Not saying I put on a front when we got guests.
No,
put on an act. It was this guy for years.
You can just be yourself a little bit. You're like we're comfortable in a companionable silence, aren't we, Ben? We can just sometimes hang out, sit there, nothing. Yeah. We get on a Zoom call together, just quiet.
Sit in silence and stare at each other. Yeah, we've done that a few times. Just
and then at the end, say, "Oh, nice to see you. Good to hang out."
It's great to catch up. Yeah, see you later. But obviously, when you do record a podcast, you pretty much have to fill mostly every second of silence and dead air. Otherwise, it wouldn't be very interesting for anybody to listen to.
Sometimes with the magic of podcasting remotely, as we do, because we all live in different parts of the world, sometimes fill bits of open air multiple times when you both talk at the same time.
Definitely done that more than once. Maybe 3 people talking at the same time. That's good. And then you go quiet, and then you go, I'll wait for another opening and go to make my point again. And then the same thing happens. Embarrassing. It's the audio equivalent of when you're walking down the street and someone gets in the way of you and you both go the same way and then the same way again and the same way again and the same way again. And then you just kiss.
Yeah. Or punch one or the other. Fight or kiss.
I kind of love it though. I love it because I love like going, oh, this is ridiculous, isn't it? Oh, this is ridiculous, isn't it? And then it just keeps on going on. And then a moment hits where you go, I've had enough now, actually. I'm not happy about this.
I thought we were just like throwing your head back, screaming, and then running in the other direction. Run away.
Get out the way. I'm definitely someone I anticipate these moments too well, though. So I know in these moments, I always double down. So I'm not going left and then right. I'm going right, and then I'm continuing to go right
again.
Right again, until I'm basically, I've turned all the way around, and I'm going the opposite direction, you know?
Your day's inconvenience, they think you weird. You can't win.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with that, you know? I am inconvenienced, but it's all good. It's all good. I'll make it home eventually. I'm not in a rush. So... We're talking about a new film today. We're talking about a brand new film, brand new release, striking while the boogie is hot, which is nice. On a week when Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, that's what it's called, this one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1? Is this a 2-parter?
I think they said they were doing that, and then they changed it to Beyond the Spider-Verse or something like that.
The one's got another name. Okay, so Either way, a new animated Spider-Man, which... I don't know about you, Ben, but I think it probably affected the cinema attendance because I know that's doing absolute gangbusters. You already know this, but for the benefit of the listeners, when I went to see The Boogeyman, that's right, everybody, I've done it. The ultimate cinema experience. I was the only one there, just me.
Oh. Solo man, did you have any snacks?
I got myself some lovely Iron Brew flavoured pastilles, only available in Scotland, I imagine.
Oh, lovely.
They were quite a treat. They were delicious. And then I got myself a lovely 7-Up free to wash that down.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, sat and enjoyed that. Sat myself on an aisle seat, as I'm wont to do, but once I found out it's only me in the cinema, moved to the middle.
when it's only you in the cinema, optimal, you want to get right in the middle and absorb everything, the sound design, because I think if we're going to say much positive about this film, and we will say some positive things, but I think the sound design was pretty good. I definitely felt like I was being boogied
Yeah, and
or the
added
potential to be
effect, because
boogie.
obviously the cinema stuff where I go, they stick their head in every now and again, make sure you haven't fallen asleep in there, or you're not pissing on the seats, or like camming the film. And there's a couple of moments in the tense parts, obviously they aren't timing this, where
Yeah.
they creaked the door open just to have a look, make sure everything
Oh yeah.
was all above
Put their little
board.
creepy hand around the
Yeah,
corner of the thing. They had light up eyes as well.
do the little voice of a loved one. That's how you give it away. Like, just do the impression, don't then do an echo.
Yeah. Pretty good there. I was going to mention this. Isn't there another film called Boogeyman from like
2005.
2005? Not based on the Stephen King short story, but still called Boogeyman, not called The Boogeyman. Yeah, did I just wasn't sure if I'd misremembered this because the poster is very similar as well, right? Because initially I was like, I think when this first got announced, I was like, remake of a film that apparently wasn't very good. I don't remember, but had a couple of sequels as well.
Maybe it's an intonation thing. Maybe that one is the Boogeyman, and it's about a disco dancing champion. Just really helps people get into the boogie.
It says it had negative reviews from critics, but it was a financial success and was followed by 2 direct-to-video sequels. It says the film was nearly panned by critics. How'd you get nearly panned?
Maybe panned is a scientific term, and you have to have got under a certain percentage to be actually panned.
It's not like you've gone, right, you know what I think of this film? It's absolutely, and then
almost shite.
It's absolutely, and you get distracted by something else, and you go, whoa, that was nearly panned by that critic, but
and
luckily...
the review trails off. They never finish it.
That's it. There we go. But yeah, it seems to have... I'm just looking at the budget for the 2005 one, 20 million, and it pulled back like 70 million. So mid 2000s, mid 2000s horror, which I think it was a good time for horror at the box office. I think, wasn't it? That sort of stuff, especially like American horror movies. Complete segue from that because I said 2000s. You know how we call it the noughties?
Yeah.
Apparently, everyone else apart from British people think that's mad.
What's they call it the aughts, right?
I think they just call it 2000s, and that's it. And
that's
the noughties,
1,000 years, you fucking idiots. Sorry, everyone else in the world.
I saw it on. I think it was TikTok. People saying, "Do you know what the British people call this decade?" And in the comments, loads of people were obviously just making fun of British people, calling it the jolly old, the jolly old pie of mash years. I don't know.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Another hint for your TikTok: if you're the people making that particular bit of content, you'll never guess what the British, in this context, me, calls you. I ain't gonna reveal it, but I tell you what.
Oh.
It's a word that you find offensive, but I use quite liberally up here in Scotland. It's fine.
Okay, I think I got it now. I was thinking it was one thing, but I think it's the other thing. That's okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring out a national debate.
No, it's not a matter of blah. Fucking hell, no wonder. Yeah, accept all criticism of how we talk now, because apparently I've completely given up any ability to say any words properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, accepted with good humor. Just being contrary.
I do love the fact that there may be some of our listeners. Obviously, we know we've got some listeners in the UK. In the US. I hope we got some in the UK.
Start over.
but I do enjoy the thought of somebody listening to like a Bristolian. I don't know why. It just kind of especially when me and Terrell did the Evil Dead Rise episode, I was like, there's some people out there who've never been to Bristol, never will. And they're listening to 2 Bristolian fellas wax lyrical. That's a phrase, right?
Yes.
Wax lyrical about Evil Dead Rise. And I don't know, that just amused me in a way.
You use loads of different words as well.
Yeah. Well, then you use words that I've never particularly heard. Mazinoff. So talking about the box office returns from Boogeyman 2005, supernatural horror film starring Emily Deschanel, not Zoe Deschanel.
Any relation?
Yeah, it's a sister who's in Bones. Remember that? You know that TV show Bones?
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's all coming together. But yeah, so off the back of that, this Boogeyman film, which is of no connection because it's based on a Stephen King short horror story, 20 million worldwide debut so far, which I think is all right, isn't it? Considering it came out at the same time as Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
They
a
projected
budget
15 for the weekend over in the US, so sounds all
yeah,
right.
35 million pound budget. I think it's looking pretty good for the first big budget, but also big international blockbuster type horror movie for Rob Savage, aka Robbie Savage, as I referred to him last week. It's good, it's good. British filmmaker out there doing the Lord's work. I'm feeling, based on like something incredibly short, right? It's only like, is it 12 pages or something?
I've not read it, like I did think about trying to read it before we came to record, but got a job and stuff, got to do it. But I do intend to read it. But I think Luke said last week that it's a very, very short story, right?
Yeah, and it kind of serves, I believe, as somewhat of a prequel to this, rather than a adaptation of that exact story.
Okay.
So, prequel, sequel. I think I mean sequel. Yeah. So like that's kind of happened. This has happened. This is next. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty cool. 20 million worldwide. Good numbers. That was my first piece of news. The second piece of news is that Bird Box Barcelona teaser trailer, a Netflix movie which takes place at the same time as the original Bird Box, the trailer is available now, but the premiere of the movie will be on the 14th of July. This kind of snuck up out of nowhere. I didn't realize this was a thing. But interesting, the sort of, there's another story which takes place at exactly the same time as the first film. That's kind of interesting. I like that as an idea. I like it when it's used in games like Resident Evil, for example. The fact that Resident Evil 3 takes place at the same time as Resident Evil 2.
I enjoy about it, Ben. Loving this alliterative title. Bird Box Barcelona.
Oh, yeah. Where else could they do it? Bird Box Bradford.
Bird Box Birmingham.
Bird Box Boston.
Boston, yeah.
Boston. Bird Box Buenos Aires.
Bird Box Bolivia.
That's good. That's more country though. I was sticking to cities.
Okay.
I'm not. I've taken issue with that for no reason. That's a perfectly legitimate suggestion. Sorry, okay. Andy.
I mean, if you can replace it with a city in Bolivia, then you're very welcome to. Bird Box Brighton.
Bird Box Brighton, that's good. On the pier with your blindfold on. It doesn't matter, does it? Because everyone's not about to see anything anyway.
Just make it an audiobook.
What was it? It wasn't Leggy Venoms, was it?
No, you know what? I haven't seen Bird Box Original Recipe. I may cover it soon, Ben, in my Horror Hangout bite-sized catch-up series, where I catch up on movies that I haven't seen because they were before I joined the team.
Yeah. And we did, I'm guessing we covered that then, yeah?
Yeah, you did Bird Box as an episode. And I think it's the horrible things that if you see them, you just go.
It's the latest in the series. It's the latest in the series of there's a creature that takes advantage of one of your senses. So it sees you, it gets you.
Does it see you, or do you have to see it, or is it both?
I guess if you have to see it, don't you?
Can you see them when they're not looking and you're all right, or if you just have a little peep at them, it's too late?
Not sure. I do that thing all the time. When you like pretend you got your eyes closed, but you're kind of like squinting through it.
Yeah,
I do that constantly.
If we discover their powers, then they'd probably get you.
I reckon they'd get me. Yeah.
I'll hurry up and watch Bird Box then, so I'm ready to watch Bird Box Barcelona.
I mean, to be fair, it looks almost exactly the same. Even the screenshots we're looking at look exactly the same, like a family making their way, somewhere. Uneasy alliance with survivors, making their way towards a safe haven as the unseen creature grows, or the threat of the unseen creature grows. Interesting. Bird Box universe wasn't something I kind of expected, but let's do it. I'll check it out. I didn't hate Bird Box with Sandra Bullock, so let's give it a chance.
Getting around in Spain as well. Nice bit of scenery, nice bit of sunshine.
That's true.
Hopefully
we'll get to see
Bird Box Barcelona. Travel to the Bernabeu.
Travel to the Bernabeu. That's in Madrid.
It's commutable.
I'm sorry. Why am I taking such offense with your geography?
Maybe the sequel to this will be Bird Box Barcelona, where you take the bus to the Bernabeu.
Well, yeah, that's much fair. Bird Box Barcelona, taking the bus to the Bernabeu. I like it. It sounds great. I'd do it. Who's driving the bus though? Because I'm assuming you got to do it blindfolded, which seems incredibly dangerous.
A blind bus driver who's driving the bus to the Bernabeu from Bird Box Barcelona.
A blind bus driver called
Bertie.
blind bus driver called Bertie, who's driving the bus to the Bernabeu from Barcelona, and he's got a family of three on board. On board. There we go. I'd watch it. I'd watch anything.
Yeah, I'm up for that. I'm going to catch up with the series Bird Box. I think it did reasonably well, right? It's based on a book.
I'm
book
pretty
Bird
sure.
Box Barcelona.
I'm pretty sure it was one of the highest streamed films when it came out, as far as I'm aware. On Netflix, I mean.
Yeah, it's like a Netflix original release, right? It didn't have a cinema.
Don't think so. No, because I think it was lockdown. Was it? No, maybe not.
A little bit before.
A little bit before. Okay, all blurs into one this time, doesn't it? I'm gonna have to try and find out what these creatures are supposed to look like, or maybe I'm not even allowed to see them.
Yeah, maybe don't Google it, anybody. Listen at home, because if you see them and that is indeed the thing that sends you funny, then best not.
Sends you funny. I just love using that scene as a GIF. You know, where he's like spreading her eyes wide to make her look. Look at them! Look at them! I just like using that as anything like.
You just roll your eyes back into your head. Ha! Got you.
Like the Undertaker.
Yeah, he's the ultimate weapon against them.
Exactly.
Walk around with his eyes wide open. They'll be like, "Oi, look at me! Can't see, mate. My eyes are back here.
My eyes are back here. See you later." In the back of my head. Gutted. Okay, last bit of news is that the Wrong Turn creator, Alan B. McElroy, hopes to make 2 sequels to the 2021 reboot movie, which we covered on the podcast. I'm assuming, were you involved in that?
I was in that one. The thing I remember most about the Wrong Turn reboot is that it has more endings than Return of the King.
Yeah.
It's got about 3.
Oh, yeah. It has loads. You think that's the end, do you? Well, you're sorely mistaken, because
we've come to your house now. All right then, but it's ended now. You've taken me into the car, right? No, still going
on. Basically, that film's still going on. If you kept watching, there'd be a never ending. So
several endings. Each little scene implies that it's wrapping up, but then it goes on for just 2 minutes longer.
It just goes nah. So obviously the Wrong Turn reboot was very, very different to the series of movies that came before it, where they were all like inbred hillbilly mutants or something like that, and this one's more
like a survivalist society, right? Like an isolationist society that live in the woods.
Yeah.
It was an interesting change, certainly a less probo change, and apart from like the what's it called, ludonarrative dissonance, where your main character goes from survivor in a traumatic time, so absolutely skilled murderer, would slit your throat as soon as look at you, can kill people in an instant. It's like the real Lara Croft situation about that.
Yeah.
1 minute really losing a lunch over having to kill a deer to eat and survive, and then 2 minutes game time later shooting a man to death execution style, pickaxing someone else in the back.
It's definitely Lara Croft scenario, isn't it? Because are you talking like the 2010,
2016, the reboot of the new
reboot,
trilogy.
Yeah, where she was like, you were crying as you murdered somebody, and two seconds later you're getting literal kill streaks.
Got like a climbing axe and literally just embedding it in the back of the dude's head while he's asleep.
Yeah. Wow. It's pretty much that, yeah. But you know what? I can't really remember massively. Don't think I hated it. So
I'd turn up for another one. That's fine.
I'd turn up for another one, but I'd take the right turn into the cinema.
Not the wrong turn, and then be like, oh, fucking hell, D-. Wasn't even a film on.
There wasn't even a film on, mate. I watched the fire escape for 2 hours. Just looked at it.
Went to the pub and played a game of snooker. Didn't even win.
Winner stays on as well. So the guy was brilliant. Just stayed on there for the whole evening.
Put 50p on the table and someone ignored it. Actually worse.
Oh, that is the worst.
Apparently that wasn't how you play locally. You don't get to put 50p on the table. It's your next go.
Don't give a fuck. Okay, well that's all I've got down for news. I guess we do what we've been watching, even though it's only been several days since our last recording.
Yeah, we recorded late last week, early this week. You know what we've done? We've started late and finished early. Like outfits from that excellent anecdote last week.
We sure have.
Yeah. I tell you what, I only touched on it. I touched on it just as we were closing yesterday, but I've continued to play more Vampire Survivors. Not usually into roguelike games where you're going through, you play another run at this little game and then you'll unlock more stuff. But it's really clicked with me. Little retro looking, like almost 8-bit graphic style. Just waves and waves of little vampires coming to get you. And unlocking more characters, unlocking more weapons, getting the different builds that you want. It's very good at drip feeding this stuff. So I've continued to play that instead of any of the hundreds of like high resolution AAA games that I need to play through. But I've also had time to watch one film, which was The Influencer, another new one over on Shudder. Let me tell you who is in The Influencer. If I can.
Oh, so that's the new Shudder original, isn't it? Is that right?
Yes.
Is it a Shudder original? Okay.
Yeah, it's a 2022 film directed by Curtis David Harder, not Harbour. Be careful who you follow. See, follow not only in real life, but also, on social media. While struggling on a solo backpacking trip in Thailand, social media influencer Madison meets CW, who travels with ease and shows her a more uninhibited way of living. But CW's interest in her takes a darker turn.
CW?
CW is her name, yes.
That doesn't roll off the tongue at all.
They call her CW. They don't call her Koo or anything like that.
That doesn't roll off the tongue at all. That's not short, surely. Sure, if her name was Clarissa
Williams,
Clarissa Williams, CW, it feels like the same amount of effort.
Yeah.
What's she playing at?
Especially as a fictional character, and you could have called her anything.
Literally could have called her anything, yeah. Could have called her just C.
Yeah. You know what? It was interesting. It had some predictable elements to it, like, it's got like a single white female swim fan kind of thing, whereas like someone who becomes obsessive and she has some sinister plans for these people. It's also got some real douchey like additional characters who you kind of root for the murder woman, CW, saying, actually, I kind of hope you get away with this. They were a bad sort, but it's got some interesting things in it and it's got a nice bit of tension. So you know what? If you've got Shudder, stick it on, support new content.
So you've done a bite-sized episode on that?
I have, as it happens, recorded one a little bit early today. So
or bite-size.
Full thoughts on that.
Bite-size.
I think you can say either of those things. No one's going to throw you out for it. So yeah, I recorded one on that. So listen back to my thoughts and a little bit more of the details on the plot, should you so wish.
Patreon. Get yourself on Patreon. We've got official Patreon-only content, and that content is available for anyone who supports us on Patreon. It's not like locked away beneath the more expensive what word am I thinking of?
Tiers,
correct. Correct.
I've got the answers. For as little as $1 a month. And I think now that we've hit a bit more of a stride with the bite-sized stuff, a wealth of content coming your way.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be a lot more regular. Yeah. So that was the only one you got down for this week?
That's the only one in the last few days, apart from the film of the week. How about you? Anything new?
So I watched for the first time the Poughkeepsie tapes. Puffkeepsie tapes. Who knows how to say it? I don't, even though they said it lots and lots of times in the film. Seems like I've forgotten. So this is like a found footage no, not found footage, more like mockumentary that uses footage that was filmed by like a murderer as well. It feels more true crime than horror. It feels very like laid out like that, where it's just like, how could it get worse? Well, it could. Here's something else that's really horrible. It's got loads of like shocks, and it's got a bit of like torture porn type scenarios, but a few visuals in it that are really quite creepy, quite eerie as well. It's kind of just, it's only like 80 minutes long. I feel like it could have worked well if it was a bit longer, even if it was like a mini series or something, because I feel like it gets resolved quite quickly. A bit more tension could have probably gone a bit further, but still, I think it's good. It's directed by John Eric Dowdle, who also directed As Above, So Below, and that film Devil, where everyone's in a bloody lift, and one of them's a devil, apparently.
Oh, I'm just now picturing how that looks. Is it because they somehow get devil into elevator?
Yeah, is that
What's
right?
the D?
No. It's like DE, and then the V is like the down, right? The down of the
Yes.
elevator. That's right. Yeah, I remember. And then there's like a red light in the crack of the elevator door, and underneath it, and it looks like an upside down crucifix.
That's right. I haven't seen that. I have seen that, but not for a long time.
Yeah, me too. I haven't seen it in a long time. Yeah, so I watched the Poughkeepsie tapes. It's a really difficult word to say. I don't know what's going on when I look at it. And then the only other thing really that I'm going to mention is that I picked up a copy of Buffy the Vampire Slayer Chaos Bleeds on PS2, and I've played maybe like the first 4 levels, and they're quite extensive, these levels, you know. And as somebody who never played the original Buffy game, because I think it was on Xbox only, and I was a PlayStation kid, but I never had this one either. I'm surprised how well this plays, you know, for somebody who's very, very used to modern games and, you know, games giving you hints and games kind of holding your hand and everything's so fluid in terms of combat and stuff. This holds up. I don't know what year it came out, but obviously PS2 era, so like mid 2000s or noughties, if you like. Yeah. It holds up really well. You can like swap between characters. You can be Buffy, you can be Spike, you can be Xander, Willow.
All your main dudes.
Yeah, and I think there's ability to unlock characters as well. Loads of weapons, quite a few different like enemy types. And sometimes with these older games, especially if you've never played it before, so you haven't got the nostalgia, you can get a bit bored quite quickly, can't you? We're just like, oh, this is useless. Why am I wasting my time with this? Didn't feel like that, and I've stepped away from it, and I kind of feel like I want to go back to it. So, I only picked up for like £7 or £8 just in a
down at your local game
down at
station,
your local
CEX,
down at your local Pink Planet. And yeah, so if you've got it in your collection, and I've just reminded you about it, go and check it out, because I mean, even like the voice acting, and I mean the quips and stuff are a bit repetitive, but still, it holds up.
That's what you get from a game from that era, right? Looking at some of the clips of it, it gave me big vibes of. Do you play Primal on the PlayStation 2? Early Sony PlayStation exclusive.
Maybe I'm not sure. Let me have a look. I'm not sure, but it's similar to that. Did you get? Is that third person sort of?
Yeah, it's like a third person like action.
Okay. No, I don't think I did now, you know. But yeah, this was pretty good. I was pretty surprised. There's been a few sort of PS2 games that I've sort of dived back into after a while, especially on PlayStation Plus, but I've not really been gripped by them. That's the thing. If you didn't play it when you were younger, it feels like there's not that extra reason to go and commit to it, is there?
Some things, I think, things particularly of that era. So, dumbing it right to PlayStation eras, PS1, PS2 stuff, I find is the hardest to go back to, because there were certain things that mechanically hadn't quite worked out yet, right? Like the way that a lot of things in 3D worked, whereas older stuff, 8 and 16-bit stuff, is reasonably easy to go back to because it appears stylized rather than just aged.
Yeah, that's true.
But good. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah, it's good. But that is pretty much it from me. I've not really seen anything else this week. That is horror or horror adjacent. But the only other thing is the Boogeyman, which the both of us have seen.
The Boogeyman.
Which is good. You know, if one of us had seen it, it would be pretty difficult to make this podcast work. But we've both seen the Boogeyman, which came out just this week. So the Boogeyman is a 2023 American supernatural horror film directed by Rob Savage, from a screenplay by Scott Beck and Bryan Woods. And as we worked out, those two fellas. Oh wait, Mark Heyman as well. Sorry to leave you out, Mark Heyman. Were involved in A Quiet Place, and I get the old Quiet Place flavors all over this film. It is based on the 1973 short story of the same name by Stephen King. The film stars Sophie Thatcher, Chris Messina, Vivien Lyra Blair, and I love this actor, but I struggle with his name, David Dastmalchian.
Yeah, looking forward to looking forward to David in Last Voyage of the Demeter later this year.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, so he's in loads of stuff. Obviously, originally, well, the first role I remember seeing him in was The Dark Knight, when he's like one of Joker's henchmen, not henchmen, but one of
his fellas.
One of his fellas who basically gets threatened by Harvey Dent. Then obviously he was in plenty of other. He was in Ant-Man films as one of Paul Rudd's crew, the Russian guy. He's in Dune, isn't he? He's in
I haven't
Dune.
seen Dune yet, you know.
Yeah.
But I
And
know
Suicide
he's
Squad, the Suicide Squad as well. He's in as Polka Dot, just Polka Dot, Polka Dot Man, Polka Dot Man. So
yeah, he's coming into his own. He's a really fun actor. I'm looking forward. I feel like, doesn't he also feature on In Search of Darkness a little bit as well? So I think he's outed himself as a horror fan. So
big horror fan.
Yeah, it's good to see that he's actually getting to make some films in the genre that he enjoys as a viewer.
Yeah. Getting a bit emotional.
He's good in this a bit like the crazy man in Friday the 13th. He's here for a good time, not for a long time, but it's good to see him.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and a brief synopsis is: still reeling from the tragic death of their mother, a teenage girl and her younger sister find themselves plagued by a sadistic presence in their house and struggle to get their grieving father to pay attention before it's too late. Pay attention, grieving father. God, I know you've got other things on, but and a full-time job from home as well. But still, 6.2 on IMDb, 62% critic score and 66% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, 3.0 on Letterboxd. Choice reviews coming up for you, Mr. Conduit Turner. Devon Sterling says, nothing horrible or offensive. It's just a generic, watered-down PG-13 horror movie with constant jump scares. It's a hell of a lot better than Children of the Corn, though. That's for sure. 3 stars. Devon Sterling. Did I say who it was already? This one made me chuckle. Everyone would have died in England because the dads would say it's like Blackpool Illuminations in here and turn on the lights off.
Very good. The only cultural difference, me being from the Midlands, is that my dad would have called it Walsall Illuminations.
Oh, I like it.
But Walsall Illuminations, the Black Country's answer to going to Blackpool.
Down south in Bristol, they would have said Blackpool Illuminations.
Because you guys are used to the coast, we don't like to be reminded that I grew up in the literal place in the UK, not a big island, the fucking furthest place from the sea ever.
Oh, right. If you're on fire, you'd have miles to run, so you can put yourself out. That was Faye, and she gives it 2.5 stars. Alfie Parsons says, glad to see Rob Savage has absolutely got the juice to do bigger movies following Host and Dashcam. Great set pieces, just surrounded by a very, very naff script, especially the final conflict. 3 stars. And then James Cox says, not a single flashlight in sight. Genuinely scary moments throughout, so I'm happy. 3 stars. Now, in terms of the reviews I chose, 3 stars being the highest maybe gives you an idea of how this has been received, like critically, or at least from like horror movie fans as well. Obviously, we've reviewed Host and Dashcam on this show, and I think we were highly positive about both of those films. But I guess what this feels like is a director of a very distinctive style, an idea of what horror should be, being given money and probably like a lot of studio input, and obviously free writers on the script as well.
For a project that was shelved when Disney acquired Fox, right? So this one was going to happen a while ago. I can see here. So it was announced in June 2018 with Beck and Woods writing the screenplay, cancelled when Disney acquired Fox, but they resurrected it basically with Rob Savage. Obviously, it would have been cancelled before Rob Savage really came to prominence with Host, because that was during lockdown. Yeah, you're right. I think I'm going to have positive things to say about it, and I'm going to have positive things in the beats to say about it. We can overall sum it up that I think there is some good filmmaking here. There are some good performances in this film as well. But I came away a little disappointed that a director that I really enjoyed because of a very distinct style, a very a notable personal touch, that you kind of get completely different from. But think about last week, we watched the Sam Raimi movie. and you can see when you watch a movie by that director that they did it.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch a few minutes of an Evil Dead film or Drag Me to Hell or something along those lines, even Spider-Man 2. And if you know anything about that filmmaker, you could say, I can tell that that's the same person. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Rob Savage as a director has those traits of his own about him that you could recognize something that he has done. And I think it's kind of lost in this Hollywood production with the input they're likely to have gotten. It's nothing to do with the money behind it, but I think it's the control that you give up to access that money
I
that has maybe
think,
stifled his style a little.
yeah. And I think let's try and be positive about it, because I think if either of us had made two films using it based on our own style, and we suddenly got Hollywood came a call in and said, develop this story by Stephen King, there are going to be multiple writers involved, and it might not be your exact vision, but if your name is out there further and you're making money for
Oh,
the
yeah.
studio, who knows what opportunities are going to come your way. So I don't know. I feel like me personally, I'd love to have tackled, like, especially Stephen King, no matter what it was, I think I'd be like, oh God, this is, as long as he's happy. We see him tweet a lot now, Stephen King, these days, where he says, like, saw this, thought it was great, saw this based on my property, thought it was great. I think he's probably got a bit more in his older years, a bit more chill, maybe, rather than hating everything, because he hated obviously The Shining and numerous other things that were developed from his stories.
I'd agree, and I don't think I would. I agree with you, Ben. I wouldn't criticize the decision to take this job or to have these opportunities to promote or to make what is on track to be a successful movie. I would applaud those decisions, and I'm also really happy to see a director whose work I like find bigger audiences, because you can't take for granted for the fact that ask the normal shit munchers out there and they won't know who Rob Savage was from the films that we know him from, potentially. But I think it's fair criticism on the studios to say, when you've got a director with with like a unique vision and like a unique way of presenting things and being able to deliver on scares, invite them in a little bit more, maybe let you hand off the lead a little bit more, even if it's just, hey, you have to narratively do this, but hey, creatively, what have you got for, say, for example, one of those action sequences, one of the set pieces, maybe the finale, like, what can you give us that's a little bit different in this section? I feel like maybe, obviously I won't know this until we've read more behind the scenes stuff or whatever, or more stuff comes out over time. It feels like there might have been some pressure to play what have been safe options.
Well, this is the thing, like, in terms of films that it feels like, Smile being one of them. Now, we mentioned this before the show, the talk of trauma and grief being attached to like a physical being. I think years ago that was quite unique, especially when we saw it in things like The Grudge. I think now we see it in, it's been The Boogeyman, it's been Smile, Babadook. I mentioned Silent Hill in terms of like games as well, that kind of take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think for me, the Babadook maybe stands out as the strongest example too, and it feels like a lot visually comes from that as well, like the corruption that spreads across the house brought about by grief. But you're right, it's quite a heavily played thing now, and this is perhaps much like one of our reviewers that you chose said, I think a lot of it comes from the script that was given, and there's not very much to differentiate it from any of these things, some of which have done it more notably, in different ways, attaching trauma or neglect or the ongoing impacts of a loss to a family and things like that. I think a lot of that has been played out, and I didn't see much from a script point of view that was very different, or a very different approach to that versus what I've seen.
Yeah, I understand. I think in terms of, if we are going to compare it to something like Smile, I had a lot more problems with that than I did with this. I feel like it could have been a lot better. There were plenty of moments where it felt like they didn't take advantage of what it could be, and it did feel a bit generic in places, especially with the creature. It felt very A Quiet Place. It felt very what else have we seen that kind of looks like these things we've already mentioned a few times?
Life, Venom, like basically anything
Yeah.
where there is a monster that is functionally a black ooze, and we do get a little bit more detail in the final scenes of the movie, and we will come to that where we see a bit more of its detail, but it's functionally kind of a gangly black shape for the most part, right?
Yeah. I know
Slenderman, in fact, but less
I
well
know
dressed.
it's kept in the dark for like pretty much the entirety of it. We see flashes of it, yes. I guess with films like this, me personally, I think it works the best when you see as less as possible. However, I'm still eager to see more, if that makes sense. I think it works the best, but when you see more, maybe not so much. And some of the details looked all right. Smart, to be fair, Smile in terms of the reveal of what this creature manifests itself at the end is quite unique and quite strange and interesting. Whereas this, yeah, it just feels kind of generic, and especially the action set pieces and the way it kind of, I guess, a bit paint by numbers, really, isn't it? It's like a threat. There's some sort of threat, some sort of supernatural threat that seems to be haunting you. You find somebody who's dealt with it before. You go to them. You find out a bit more. You take matters into your own hands because other people around you aren't believing you.
Do a bit of investigating.
Do a bit of investigating, and then there's a big final battle, and that's kind of it. And then maybe a little hint
A
at
little
the
bit
end
at the
that
end
it's
where
not
it's like,
all over.
oh, is it really gone? Is there still a boogeyman?
Yeah, and I felt, it felt very, I guess safe is the question, is the word to mention. It's especially with how much great original horror we get. I just feel like some of these films get stuck with this sort of supernatural threat thing going on. I mean, a perfect example for like a episode we did fairly recently with Terrified, the Argentinian movie, that had so much going on that made me genuinely feel creeped out.
Yeah.
But it just feels like these films, I mean, I'm just talking about Boogeyman and Smiles, essentially. They just feel like a very watered down version of what could be a really scary film.
Yeah, and I think the piece with the metaphor as well, similarly with Smile, I kind of struggle with when it comes to the resolutions towards the end. Actually, Smile maybe holds on to it a little bit more. Whereas this one, it is a metaphor for not tackling grief and neglecting the family and not being open and speaking to one another.
Yeah.
But then in the end, it is a monster that you can fight. And, spoilers. You're about to get into it properly. I'm about to talk about the end in brief before we get to the full plot synopsis. In the end, the thing that you do is kill it with fire. And there isn't, they do come together as a family after the fact, but that's after they fought a monster. It doesn't defeat it on a metaphorical level. You kill it because there's a fire, and it doesn't like fire because someone mentions it earlier that's what man used to fend off monsters from the dark early on.
And it's another one of these. A lot of films do this where they sort of talk about a creature or something that's been around forever. It's been around since the dawn of time, and it's just been picking
like
people
Valak,
off,
and like the nun always
was.
was.
Like Valak and the Nun. So it's like, well, you just kill it with fire, and it's like, okay, well, how's it still existing? I kind of like the idea of the fact that it moved from person to person. I guess Smile is similar in that way, yes, but it moved from person to person by sort of traveling. I don't know. It felt kind of unique. The fact that the grief traveled with this guy into a different household, which had experienced grief, and
a
bit of grief, lovely tasty bit of grief around here, and then it just like it existed in closets, for example. However, I don't think that always entirely made sense because it was like in a closet at someone's house, and then it managed to get to a closet somewhere else. And I just think if you've got if you
in Monsters Inc. world, can it go?
Is it Monsters Inc. world? That's exactly what I was going to say. It's basically bloody Monsters Inc. world, which I think would work well as a horror.
He's
movie,
a rogue employee. He's gone right off the rails.
He's Steve. What's the one Steve Buscemi voices?
The little lizard man.
Little lizard man. He's basically that. This is a Monsters Inc. reboot. This is a gritty reboot of Monsters Inc.
Yeah.
But of a boogeyman. I don't know. I was kind of expecting something more man-like, you know,
Yeah.
some more man-like. Because I'd be like, I look at that and I go, I ain't calling that the boogeyman. That's some sort of leggy
It's a leggy
stretch man.
Venom.
That's a leggy Venom, but no, it's man. I don't know. I felt like it would have been scarier if it was some kind of man, because it could do a human voice,
Oh,
but
now
still.
I'm thinking of it. Like, that'd have been creepiest of all. If we had all these elements, Wolf of Snow Hollow factors, I don't think I'd have been against that. If it had loads of elements of it being an unseen and creepy force that's supernatural, and then at the end it just turns out that it's a horrible man that's crept into their house the whole
Just a
time.
fella. It's just a fella. It's just what's his name?
It's Buddy Toombs.
It's Bay Toombs. He can squeeze in anywhere he wants. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh man, I'm disappointed in myself now.
And again, a slightly supernatural thing. You know, it doesn't have to. We can have some supernatural elements or like open to interpretation elements. I guess it sounds like we're being really negative, but I do think some things did kind of work for me. I don't think they worked all the way.
No,
if that makes sense.
It's good to get these things out in the open, Ben. We're in a safe space. Opinions are welcome here. We're not professional film people, but it's safe to get these things out, and we are going to go through it. And as we get to those beats that I enjoyed, I've got some good stuff to say, but I think it's okay to start with these moments because I think it's having loads of good people and good things that are working on something which I think structurally maybe had its time and its moment a few years ago, and maybe could have been something more, but I get a feeling was maybe thought from a structure and theming view, someone at an executive level. And I never like being critical of creators that can do phenomenal things that I couldn't do given all the time and money in the world, but very happy to criticize executives that make decisions. So I think that's where the root of the things that made this not as strong as it could have been.
I think if we're talking about positives, I think some of the cast were good. Sophie Thatcher as Sadie. Harper, the lead was good. I think Christopher Messina as well. So the dad was all right. I kind of wanted a bit more from him, but I think maybe he was supposed to be like that, a bit sort of distant.
Just an absent dad, right? Like
an absent dad, yeah.
Didn't do very much. It was all on the two sisters, really.
Yeah, Vivien Lyra Blair as Sawyer. I'll tell you what is good. We'll get to it as well. But the way they use a video game in this
that was good. Yeah,
that was good. That was very interesting. We'll get to that. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you what, we also give the friends from school as well. I think this only works in the US, where if people, I think if that girl, the friend that isn't really a friend, was being that much of a bitch, most people would slap them and do exactly what that does, and people wouldn't bat an eyelid at it.
Yeah.
Like at a British school, someone would have asked her politely, I know my mum is dead, but can yours sew? And while she's thinking about that, nutter, and say, stitch that.
Stitch that together. Oh,
yeah.
Glasgow kiss.
Yeah. But yeah. There's some room to work on there. I don't think people are that just nakedly awful and they aren't getting called up on it. But
because that's the thing. I almost felt like, so there's a scene, we'll get to this because this is one thing that I felt was represented a bit better, because I think high school kids these days, while you of course do get bastards, you're bound to, it's not the same as perhaps as kids were represented in mid 2000s, maybe earlier than that, where you go to school and there are pretty much everyone's horrible. The fact that everyone was saying to Sadie, sorry your mum died, like I think that's quite realistic. I think that this generation's definitely got a bit more in
they've all got a brand to promote.
We've got a brand to promote, so you want to be sympathetic towards
you got to work on that personal brand. So not being a dick is probably the way to go.
So the Harper family with the sisters and their therapist dad, Will, they're struggling to come to terms with the death of their mum, who, well, not Will's mum, his wife, who she died suddenly in a car crash. But I don't think we actually know that for a while, do we? We just know that she's
find
died.
out that she's died, and he mentions a crash later. But before we get that, sorry to drag you back in time, Ben. but we get a little
Oh
cold
God,
open.
yeah. I completely forgot about the cold open.
With a little Dot in a bed having a lovely sleep at night. Got the light mobile on, and then the door opens in the house, and we get a wibbly wobbly voice saying, "All right, it's your daddy here. Don't be
It's your
scared."
dad here. Don't be scared. Yeah, I'm not scared because my dad always talks like that, which is lucky.
Yeah, yeah. Like, for fuck's sake, I was asleep. He's like,
"Don't be scared."
Is that Dad? I wasn't. Thanks. You know, could avoid me being scared. Shutting up.
Shut up, leave me alone. This is quite a good little shot there where it like pans around the room, isn't it?
Yeah, and the spooky man comes in and basically crunches little Babby's head like a Cadbury's mini egg.
I mean, yeah, it's brutal, isn't it? Like, I think when you realize that already we've got a fatality of a kid already in this opening scene, we're made to think that perhaps this film isn't going to take any prisoners.
Yeah. Thing is, I think that is do you reckon they've blown their controversy load in the opening scene? No, you've crunched the toddler's head like a Cadbury's mini egg. You're not doing anything else.
Can't kill any more kids, unfortunately. He's like, damn. God damn. Yeah. But it's a decent cold open. It's a good like shot that like pans around the room. Yeah, and then we flash forward. Well, I don't know how much further forward
just a little bit, right? Because then we see the Harper family getting ready. Their mom died in a car accident a month ago.
Yeah.
And it's going to be their first day back at school.
First day back at school. The dad Will is kind of back to work he's like a therapist and he's got people coming to the house. He's got a client like before the kids even leave for school.
Oh, I guess it is convenient it's convenient for the user because it might be before their workday starts as well. So
that's a good point.
You Will. You're making in this hustle heavy world, you're making sure you're accessible to patients at what are going to be premium hours for them.
And the patient knows what he's gone through as well, because she says all my problems seem like nothing compared to yours. And he's like,
it's like, oh no reason to not have therapy about it though. I would still continue to engage with that.
So
I thought this was going to come into it as well, because it seemed to be, it's like, what are you afraid, what are you afraid of? I'm afraid my partner doesn't love me. Well, what are you really afraid of? Oh, I'm afraid of being on my own. And he's like, and that's what we have to work on. So his conversation about how you should tackle fear and reflect on that, and what you should concentrate on, what you're afraid of, and then how you can overcome those things. I was like, oh, tripped that little thing there. So it's going to be about overcoming. No, that doesn't come up again, everybody. Discard that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So we're introduced obviously to Sadie and Sawyer. Sadie's like struggling to sleep, and Sawyer's struggling to sleep. Sadie is like wearing her mum's clothes. Obviously, that's one way that she's coming to terms with it. But yeah, when she goes to school, rather than it's her friend Bethany, but also she's joined like a new clique of girls, who oddly kind of treat Sadie with disdain, despite the fact her mum's just died. Like, it's almost like she's coming back and getting involved in our friendship group.
Backhanded compliment to begin with. It's like one of the girls says, "Oh, I love your dress. It's really a statement, isn't it?" And then the worst,
you could pull that off. Yeah,
it's a perfectly normal dress.
It's a perfectly normal dress, but they're like, "Whoa, this is a bloody statement, isn't it? Yellow."
Yellow after Labor Day. My God, that's why after Labor Day. But like, it's yeah, it's an odd one. But then she's also quite upset already because in opening her locker, the last lunch that her mom had packed for her, is in there, and it's gone rancid. So she's got rancid lunch in her hands, and then the worst of the ones, who is, have a look here.
Which is the worst one?
Maddie Nichols plays Natalie. Yeah, that's her.
Yeah, because Bethany is like her friend, but then there are others who.
But basically, she's made friends with these other girls, and she comes in and is like openly an absolute cow, and then when
smushes her. How did she smush the rancid lunch on her? It doesn't. It's an accident.
I think Sadie basically takes offense to what she said. Said, "Oh no," because the girl basically goes, "Oh, isn't it weird? Is this you like not moving on by?"
She says it's creepy as well, but I'm like,
that.
Have a little bit of.
Yeah, and then she smushes basically rancid old lunch into the dress from her mom. And again, I think this is a moment that took me out of it. Like, I think you can say a lot for the world, mate. Real life horrors. I feel like that. I feel like that girl's cancelled at this point, right?
That girl's. I feel like maybe if this was like a few days into, but it's literally the first minutes of Sadie's first day back after her mum dying. Like,
I feel like you're done. I feel like you're cancelled. The school is probably suspending you. No one speaks to you ever again. She might as well disappear like Infinity War.
Because she laughs as well, doesn't she? She like smushes the rancid lunch. Like you would, I think almost anybody would be like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." Like
even if you were an absolute dickhead, you'd be like, "Oh, I didn't mean that. Actually, that was an accident. It just got out of hand. I'm not bad." Maybe if you were laughing to yourself, like, "Ha ha ha," look into the camera, but she is like nakedly awful. She's like, ha.
And what I like is said is like, "That's it. That's the only excuse I need to just go home. See you later."
Oh, we've all been there when we've been at uni. I'm like, oh, I tell you what, I know I'm at the station, but if I don't get to my platform in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to miss my train and not be able to go.
I just watch a train. You could catch a train. If you'd had a light jog, you'd get it, but you can't be bothered.
I don't like jog. If I walk over there, I'll get it. And then the conductor says, "Don't worry, mate. There's going to be another one in 20 minutes."
20 minutes behind. That's all right. I'd say I missed my train.
So she's like, "I'm going to go home." I mean, we'll cover it later, but she does go to the home. Probably, I can suspend disbelief, Ben, right? I can suspend disbelief that there's a boogeyman that's going to be in your cupboards that lives in darkness and is attracted to tragedy and sadness and that bites babies' heads off and does all sorts of these horrible things. One thing I cannot understand and cannot get on board with is, what the fuck is this washing machine in their house?
Oh, yeah.
Just outside the bedroom door, like on the landing.
It's on the landing. It lights up. It plays a tune. And
it's a 3-story house. These guys have a room dedicated to an art studio.
If somebody said, "Where are we going to put the washing machine?" Put it in the hallway on the second floor, you'd be like, "Are you nuts?" It's like that moment in Peep Show when Superhands, when they buy a pub and he says, "Nah, that washing machine, get rid of it. No, we'll keep it in here. It'll freak them out." They'll be like, "Oh, I need a pint." It's that sort of thing.
It's just like, there. It's down the corridor from a bedroom and it lights up.
If it was outside your room as well, you could hear it. Hear it going, couldn't you?
I mean, I take it it's a condensing washer dryer because the dad gets out the dry dress later on, so it must be fully dry. So, I mean,
I thought you were going to say then that the thing you couldn't believe was that someone would just waltz into your house uninvited.
No, I believe that. Just don't believe where they put this washing machine. Who designed this bloody house? If this was on Grand Designs, they're building it. Kevin McLeod would come around. He'd give him all sorts of shit for that.
The mum's an artist. She might be a bit kooky. She might be a bit like, "What's that? Washing machine in the utility room?" Absolutely not. Put it in the hallway upstairs.
They've got a basement.
Yeah, they have got a basement. Like, don't worry about that.
Washing machine.
I kept thinking the washing machine. I kept thinking the washing machine was going to come into it because it lit up and the boogeyman is scared of light. I thought something's going to happen where someone ends up in the washing machine like that, and then the boogeyman comes on and goes, the boogeyman comes on and goes, "Cold wash. See you later."
I don't understand. Like, weird choices for light up washing machines.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, before she gets home and puts the wash on, because that happens in a little bit, Will is just hanging out at home, and then Lester Billings wanders.
That's a great name.
Yeah, it's a good NPC name.
The name's Lester Billings. Great to meet you.
Lester Billings, normal man. He walks in and basically sits down and says, "Oh, gonna do a consultation, please? And he goes, oh,
he says, I got a free hour, but he still makes him fill out all the forms. That's 20 minutes down already.
Yeah, it's like, this counts. Yeah, so he fills it in because the guy basically says, please see us, because like I've got to talk to someone about it. Can't tell the police because I haven't committed a crime, even though everybody says I did.
Why is he allowed to walk free then? If everyone thinks he's committed a crime, like, what have they done? Just questioned him?
I think it's just the court of public opinion, but there's no proof.
Oh,
the DA won't prosecute. And he says he can't see a priest because he's not Catholic. I think if you've been taunted by a boogeyman, you'd probably be all right to convert to a religion, right?
See a priest, I reckon. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a religious man, but if I felt the need, maybe I'd go and see a priest, just see what he says. Just get a point of view from any religion.
And also, if people think that you're like, I mean, I don't know, is there a test if you can't go to see the priest because you're not Catholic? Are they going to say you're Catholic?
They do a pop quiz. Say,
yeah, I am. What did Jesus have on? What presents did he get for his birthday? Not the first one from the Bible. What did he get for his 5th birthday? Catholic would know. Oh,
what did Jesus? Hang on a minute, but what Jesus? It was like he was born, and then he was a man, right? There was no in between.
Did that all get? Are there some middle chapters?
I don't know. I don't know if we got moody teenager Jesus.
Do like young Jesus, like young Indiana Jones.
Young Jesus
going around.
Young Sherlock Holmes.
Just like solving a few problems.
But why is? Sorry, I'm just making a mountain out of a molehill here. Why, if there's something supernatural happening, do you automatically go, oh, Christianity, I have the answers?
Yes, because I guess if you think it's a devil, then they're the opposite of that.
Yeah, I guess so. It's not. It's a bloody leggy venom.
Yeah, it's a leggy venom. You want to go to see Spider-Man, but he lives in New York. I don't think this is in New York.
No.
So he does come along and says, "Oh, please talk to us." Then he goes, "Okay, fill out your forms." Lester gets him to shut the cupboard door because it's looking at him ominously. Lots of cupboard door POV shots in this film.
Lots of cupboard doors, and like the cupboard doors are completely pitch black inside. Like I've got a cupboard right here, right next to me, right? There's no light source in there, but every single time I open the cupboard door, I can see what's in there. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I have a little look in. There we go. That's what I need. There's the broom. Literal broom closet.
Get out.
I feel like closets are misrepresented in this film as being scary.
Well, for those of you listening to my episode with Nico when we did Insidious a few weeks ago, I think it's just a cultural thing that we don't understand over here, Ben. America does lights very differently. They don't have big lights like us.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about lighting in this film. Like, the house is very low lit, but there's bound to be like, is there not access to some sort of brighter light? Because it's ridiculous. I would be stubbing my toe on every little surface.
Yeah. If you had a boogeyman in your house, I'd want LEDs everywhere, like an airplane.
Yeah,
lighting up the pathways.
And I'm not the biggest fan of like a big light. I'll switch it off in most scenarios. But if I'm in a situation where I'm scared for my life, I'd like access to a big light.
Big light on. Like, I think it's just sensible for, what was that noise? Is it a burglar? Is it a boogeyman? Big light on.
Yeah, both of those outcomes, it would be good to have the big light to back you up.
I'd want like a master light switch in every room of the house that normally you don't use, but in case of an emergency, you press it and every light in the building comes on.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
I mean, I won't say the name out loud to induce her to start answering me, but if I had a certain digital assistant, I'd like to be able to give it a code word, like say red alert, and it puts all of the lights on to 300%.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Put them all on dimmers. Put them all insane. I want it to be like the Alan Wake room where there's like not an ounce of shadow.
Oh yeah.
A completely light area.
We needed an Alan Wake in this game. In this film. Because tons of torches and tons of batteries at arm's length at all times. But yeah, as that previous review mentioned, not a single flashlight or torch, if you're in the UK, was used in this movie. Only like sort of novelty lights, like Christmas lights,
big glowy moons,
a big glowy moon, which is I feel like it's handy to like roll into the direction of your. Yeah, but that happened like 3 times as that sort of, and each that was pretty good, I think, actually, in terms of a sort of reveal in terms of using light. And I think it seems to remove flashlights as maybe like that's too easy a thing to include. We want to include like a game, like for example, when Sawyer's playing PlayStation in pitch black darkness when there's a boogeyman around as well.
Yeah, but he's square eyes, kid. Put a light on.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it is funny with the choices of lighting, but we'll come to those guys. For now, Lester's there, and he's saying, "Oh, buddy, family." So he's getting to fill the paperwork in, and he goes, "Can I just have? I'm just going to do a recording, but I do promise this is confidential. I won't be sharing any of this with anyone. But if you say something that freaks me out even slightly, I will go and grass on you to the police, like
immediately. I'll just go.
Not even let him finish. Actually, straight on it. So he starts saying like, "Oh, my kids have died one by one, and now like something's after me. So I need you to help me." And he goes, "Oh, my oldest drew a picture of it, and it looked like this." And that seems to be what gets him. He looks at the drawing that we don't see at this moment, and he goes,
"Yeah,
right, actually, excuse me, need a wicked shit, gotta go." And he's like, "What? You do believe me though, right?" And he goes, yeah, I've just had it is early in the morning, I've had a couple of coffees. It's got things moving, mate. I've just gotta.
So doesn't Lester say that his kids were killed one by one? One kid was killed by something that they thought was natural causes.
Oh, he said, it's like sudden child death syndrome, right? It's like a known thing. He says it by the name.
It's almost like the trauma and the grief of that calls the boogeyman to then latch onto his family and then kill 2 more kids one by one. And he says like they had the life sucked out of them, didn't he? So he's like, yeah.
Did he? Yeah, had the life sucked out of them. And so the dad, Will, just goes, yeah, just off the toilet. I do definitely believe you though, and I'll be back to talk to you in a minute. And he goes through. It's not even very far to the kitchen. He's like, "Hello, police."
Hello, is that the police? I've got Lester Billings here.
Yeah, I know you haven't charged him with anything, but I'd come and fuck him up if you could. I think he might be quite dangerous.
Come and fuck him up, Lester Billings. And what do you reckon his billing method was for paying for this session? He didn't pay, did he?
Apple Pay. Probably probably got a little card reader. But yeah, Lester Billings. He's grassing up Lester Billings, but he doesn't notice that Sadie has come home because, as we mentioned, she's had enough of school, so has come to put her mom's dress.
We see her bag like hanging up, like on the banister, don't we?
Yeah, and she's upstairs putting her mom's dress in the inexplicably and inexcusably placed washing machine. She sort of pauses for a minute and gives it a little smell. Is it because maybe it still smells of her mom right now, or is she trying to work out what she's got on it? Like,
I was thinking,
mayo's off.
So I think she smelled it initially, and she wore it because it smelled like her mum. And now, because she's got that horrible rancid lunch on it, she's like, "I'm smelling it again because it's probably not going to smell like her again." That's it. Yeah. Once I've whacked it through this wash, that's it. It's done.
Yeah.
Smell.
Maybe
gone.
Trying to imagine this is what my sadly departed mum would smell like if she got covered in off mayo.
Okay. Yeah, you have to use your imagination. And yeah, so Lester Billings seems to like go upstairs, and we see this from Sadie's point of view, where she's like thinks she hears a noise, and then she like calls her dad. She's still got both AirPods in, and she's listening to music while she goes, "Dad,
kids today, innit?
What's that? Take one out at least." I think if you think you hear something dodgy, and then what she thinks she hears is like, it sounds like some sort of struggle, some sort of fight going on. You can hear a couple of voices. I mean, me personally, I was like, the dad is fighting Lester Billings. Like,
yeah, I thought it might be something physical, or I wasn't sure if the boogeyman had got in him, because we see just as Will goes out the room, the cupboard door that he's closed has come open again.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, does the boogeyman do a possession? Like it's going to be traumatized because he's gonna get them, but it wasn't like that. He just heard like a from the cupboard door.
We hear some
from inside
voices
the cupboard
and everything like that. Yeah. And then
Did you see him
essentially,
hanging up when they went in there behind him?
I don't know. Did I? Don't think so.
We did.
Was...
I mean, we the audience did. I wonder if you saw him
Oh, okay. I don't know if I did. Not
when she goes in the room. I mean, the Flan man, Mike Flanagan, has trained me at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Look in the background of bloody everything.
There were a few moments like that I did notice things, but I don't think I noticed old Lester Billings hanging up.
So he's hanging up there, off the back of the door, I guess with a belt or something like that.
I mean, difficult. I always think when I see that someone's hung themselves, I usually think about the logistics of it. Like in those moments when you try to hang yourself, like getting up there must be pretty difficult. And I think like obviously films represent it completely differently. They represent it as like you hang yourself, you're dead. Whereas I think like it takes a lot longer than that.
Yeah. I guess in reality the boogeyman has just done that to him and he's framed him as hanging himself.
Yeah, it sounds like that, doesn't it? Yeah. So the
boogeyman's worried, to a degree, worries about reprisals from the law or making it feasible that the police are going to go, open the boogeyman
this looks
file.
like a bloody boogeyman's done this. I feel like the boogeyman would want plaudits for his kills as well, but apparently not.
Rather work under the radar.
So obviously Sadie screams, finds the body in the mother's art closet. Dad appears right at the last second to cover her eyes, but it's too late. She's already seen a dead body. More trauma. Not only has your mum died, now a random man called Lester Billings has come into your house and hung himself, which is unfortunate for everybody. So after that, everyone's obviously clearly disturbed. The police come over. There's obviously a pretty terrible moment where Sawyer's coming back from school in the school bus, and you hear all the kids go, "Oh no, is the dad dead now as well?" Like as they see a body under a sheet being loaded into an ambulance. And obviously Sawyer, but she comes in the house and sees her dad isn't dead. But yeah, and I guess this is the start of a slow decline for everybody involved, Sadie, Sawyer, and Will, into like the trauma and grief, but also seeing stuff. I mean, Will not so much, but still seeing stuff, and the boogeyman getting its claws into the family.
Yeah. So the first it's Sawyer. We have it first. We get this is another. She's already done one moon roll already, like rolled the moon into the thing, but she's the first one to see it of the evening, where her dad, he's not a bad dad. He's just not talking about what's going on in the grief with his wife. So he comes to see her and she goes, "Oh, do as a monster check with you." He checks under the bed, no monsters. We check in the cupboard. He goes, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll bet you that there are no monsters in the cupboard. You've misunderstood how betting works, Dad."
Yeah.
Because I will bet you there's no monster in the cupboard. And if I look in there and I am correct and there's no monster, then I will give you $1.
Yeah,
she gets $5.
Fucking hell. $5.
Yeah. I mean, if betting worked like that, I'd bet with people all the time.
Hell yeah.
Go to the bookies. I bet with you. I've got no fucking idea who's going to win the Premiership. Okay. And if you get it wrong, I will give you £300. Cheers.
Cheers. Nice one. I feel like we've seen a variation of this scene loads though, right? Haven't we? I mean, Poltergeist, and in like dozens of other sort of films like this where a kid's scared and we expect to see something in the. I think Halloween Kills has got a variation.
I was about to say, I think it's Halloween 2018.
Yeah, I think it might be Kills, but it could be 2018.
Which one is the one that's got the babysitter Dave in it?
Yeah, I think it's Kills.
Shut up, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave. That's one of the best ones, I think.
Yeah.
And it's not even a supernatural one where they go, "All right, I'll check in the cupboard," and you open the door and Buddy Michael Myers in there.
Oh, disappointing. I'd rather have a boogeyman, I think. I mean, he's called the Boogeyman, but I'd rather have.
Maybe that's why he's always hiding in the cupboards.
I'd have a Boogeyman from this film. So yeah, that's the fact that it doesn't reveal anything at this point is nice. But also, obviously, she's fallen asleep. The door swings open. Something skitters across the floor. The rug gets kicked up. And I like this shot, the one where she goes under the bed and it does a straight 180.
That was really good. Yeah, that's a really good little. That's a really good little flip. And then she rolls the moon under, and then I guess the boogeyman gets spooked by the light and sort of it looks like she's been slurped under the bed, right? But he just sort of biffs her. She falls off and bumps her head.
Yeah. So she hurts herself as well, doesn't she? Yeah. And then she goes to Sadie to basically explain what happened. And
is this where Sadie gives us a little bit of Rob Savage? You know, we actually get a hint of him as a film director here, because she's doing a little seance while she's watching some YouTube in her bedroom.
Yeah. Initially, I thought she was watching something that was like coming to terms with grief, but then it looks like she's watching a video about contacting the dead, and then she uses a lighter and basically tries to contact her mum and says, flicker the flame to the left if you're here. I reckon even if a living person did that, if you told me to flicker the flame to the left, I reckon I'd get it wrong. I'd like blow it out by accident. Oh shit.
So she's and the medium that's talking about how this would work, which is going to come up a couple of times in the film, about moving a flame or what have you and visualizing the person, is the same psychic medium who we had in The Host.
Yeah,
I think that was a nice touch.
Yeah, definitely. That was a nice touch. That was a nice little
and
Easter egg,
this was like a nice nod to, you know, Rob Savage, a film director who is putting out, you know, recognizable worlds and interesting things. But Sawyer then turns up and says, oh yeah, so I had a bit of a rough night. I saw a Boogeyman. Got a wobbly tooth on my face, is bleeding. Oh, and that's when she decides to pull the tooth out.
I feel like the whole put a piece of string around the tooth and slam a door to pull it out is terrifying, right? It's terrifying. Yeah. It reminds me, I can't remember what Jackass film it is, but they do it with someone's wobbly tooth and attach it to like a sports car, and it drives off and pull. And in my head, I'm thinking it's going to pull his whole head off. There's no way. I don't think I could commit to it, because this one looks like one with a really deep root as well. And she even says that we've got deep roots in our, but that's ridiculous. That's like an adult-sized root of a tooth. That's not like a little baby tooth.
Bigger tooth. And also, how do you get a string around that?
No,
tied up between the molars.
It's too difficult.
Lend us your finger. Yeah, I'd have never got that in there. And then she's counting down to slam the door. She goes 1, 2, and she's no, wait. But then the fucking Boogeyman slams the door anyway, and a tooth gets yanked out. And she's obviously upset, and it's hurt her tooth, even though one of his daughters are in like a big screaming fit, and they're crying and screaming. Dad's like, oh, I'll tell you what, I'm dead to the world, mate. He's got his noise cancelling headphones on. He's fast asleep in bed.
Yeah.
And she sings a song that comforts Sawyer, like an Irish folk song, right?
Yeah, I think so. Something like that, isn't it?
It's like Tora Laura, like Hush Now, Don't You Cry. Yeah. And she's singing that to her. And then as they drift off to sleep, having left the tooth and string on the floor, we hear the Boogeyman practicing the song, getting ready to imitate it, and slurping off.
Just loves the song. Just goes, that's a great song. I'm going to sing it. I love it.
And I'm going to have this tooth.
Yeah. Slips off the tooth.
Yeah, it slips through. There's a wider crack near the door. Gets it in there. Don't worry, that'll come back later.
Yeah, so next scene is the girls visiting their therapist, Dr. Weller. So this is interesting, doing like a sort of therapy session, like sort of like a family therapy session. That's quite interesting, especially with like siblings. I don't think I've seen much of that before.
Dad hasn't bothered though. He's like, nah.
Dad's like, I got better things on. I got to do my own therapy. All right, my therapy's better. And then they're talking about obviously Sawyer's fear of the dark and the things she's seen and stuff. And then Weller's like, let's use a terrifying, slowly flashing red light that reminds you of, like, I don't know, something terrible happening, like the self-destruct sequence in any sort of sci-fi film.
And I'll stand over you ominously with my spooky glasses, my spookiest pair of glasses on.
My spookiest glasses, and do this. And obviously as it's slowly, so it gradually like switches off for longer and longer. And as it's happening, we know something pretty much terrifying is going to happen. Sawyer like nuzzles in with Sadie and then sees like the Boogeyman in the top corner, in like the corner of the room. And
that's when he looks his most venomous, isn't it?
Incredibly venomous, yeah. And this is probably the most obvious scare of all, because like as the light goes off for ages and ages, as soon as it comes back on, we get a big scare. The Boogeyman right in Sawyer's face, but then the lights come on.
Screaming, I'm the Boogeyman!
I'm the Boogeyman! And then bless her, Sawyer's wet herself, and they react. There's no real way to react to that without you don't want to humiliate anyone, but that's just fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. It ain't. Yeah, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Have you seen this lush office I've got? This doctor must have thought. Got automated blinds in it. Do you reckon this sofa comes cheap?
Oh,
Gonna wring the piss out of it now.
I don't reckon it's the first time. No, I think they do give her someone else to wear. And then back in the house, I think we just get more and more glimpses where Sawyer is like seeing it. Sadie starts to see it as well, and I think she starts just thinking that it is related to Lester's suicide. She finds the notebook as well under the sofa in her dad's office with the page removed, which had the drawing of the boogeyman, and she goes and like does the classic.
Oh, she does a classic like
rubbing,
like a brass rubbing. And you get
that.
like a lovely tree leaf, and you do like a rubbing of it, and it comes out ever so nice. The venom
comes out perfect, and she gets the image of that, and then of course Sawyer sees the image of that as well and says like, "Where'd you get this?"
Because that's after like Sawyer feels like for a much younger sister has the absolute upper hand in this fight because we've had Sawyer's been scared by the boogeyman upstairs.
Oh yeah, of course.
The boogeyman has tempted her out of her bedroom to go, "Oh, it's me, your sister. Don't come out." And she comes out, and she kicks the moon down the hall, and it gets bust and then thrown back, and then we don't really see how that resolves. Like it just scared her and she came downstairs.
She just runs downstairs because also in this moment it's when Sadie sees it in the kitchen and then she opens the fridge and the fridge. This is the thing. The film is good at using light sources that aren't the big light.
Because it breaks the light, doesn't it? The big light has been bust because it's full with ooze.
Yeah, something like that. It's just it tries to give you as many reasons as possible to go, why are they walking around in a pitch black house? Apart with their dad, it doesn't seem to care about the electricity bill. But yeah, so Sawyer comes down after thinking that Sadie had scared her because the boogeyman was mimicking her voice.
And kicks her so hard she knocks her much older sister over.
It's ridiculous. Gives her like 2 swift boots as well. I'm like, there ain't no way. Even if there's a boogeyman around, no, ain't happening. I ain't letting anyone treat me like that.
That was your voice, that was. Like literally sweeps her, like in Mortal Kombat where you do the back, whoop, like she goes over in the kitchen. I promise it wasn't me. She's a likely fucking story. And then she shows her the Venom picture. Oh, sorry, Ben. I've just realized the other thing she's done at the time was Sadie has found the tape recorder.
Oh yeah.
This was probably the best. Got to be the best shot, right? So she listens to the recording, which was the same thing we heard when the dad says, "Oh, I'm going to record this for your own benefit."
Well, we can hear stuff in the background now, can't we?
Yeah, and we hear like basically as the dad's gone away, we hear the boogeyman. It sounds like it's doing the doctor's voice and is slagging him off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, is that right?
I don't really believe you're at all, you piece of shit.
You're full of shit, you are. Walking in my house, coming off the street like that, would you? How dare you? Absolute dare you. Which is fair, I think. I'd be annoyed, no matter what he'd gone through.
Yeah, so the boogeyman does a bit of negging. And that's where I thought, like, okay, is this going to be that... did he kill himself? Has the boogeyman, is that his power? Is it about him getting in his heads, and is it going to be like a is the metaphor that it's already quite obvious from the beginning? Is it not so much about grief, but is it about the growth of depression and so on? And is it, the sort of negative thought cycles that people get into? But no, it is a monster that eats people. It just also does that negging.
Yeah. So when she's listening to it, it sort of crescendos into a really high-pitched squeal, doesn't it? And
it makes her jump so much that she throws the recorder into a jug of water that's just there.
Into a jug of water, exactly. And I feel like we've all done something like that where we've dropped something and it's immediately gone to the worst place it could possibly go.
Straight down the toilet. But that's okay because I thought, oh, no, that's the evidence gone then. But it also never comes up again.
Yeah, it never comes up. She managed to dry it off though. She just wipes it off. She doesn't put it in a bag of rice like you would with an iPhone.
No, it works straight away. It's like, all right, I'm working again. But
Yeah,
that's when the confrontation happens. That's why she didn't hear her sister almost get
yeah,
killed by the boogeyman.
that's right. So after sharing that information with her sister, she discovers the Billings address, like on with her dad's paperwork, and she gets her friend Bethany to drive her out to the
Yeah.
Billings
She like comes
abandoned
up and
house.
says, all right,
Yeah,
my friend from high school, despite the fact you look like a fully grown adult, do you want to make it up to me for hanging out with these dickheads? Can you take me to this house, please?
yeah,
And she goes in. I tell you what, not that I'm sure people of different classes all experience grief, but this boogeyman isn't after any working class people, is he? He's after these people with massive houses.
yeah, massive houses. But to be fair, this house is in a bit of this. It's a bit dilapidated. It looks like a Resident Evil house because it's like shit everywhere.
Someone's written murder all over the
Yeah,
front, all over the front.
the fridge is like got loads of disgusting food in it. And initially Sadie thinks it's abandoned, so she like writes something on the fridge, call me, puts a number on there.
Need to talk. Said, right, if someone's living here, let's find out.
Yeah. But when she goes upstairs, she finds like there's candles everywhere. And
Just
initially,
like an absolute
I was like, what?
house of candles.
I was thinking, what a faff to light all those, but luckily it shows us exactly how she does it. And yeah, so what she pretty much gets a jump. Like, this is quite a good jump, isn't it? Because so she opens the door, a camera flashes in her face, takes a photo of her, and as the Polaroid is developing, I was thinking, oh, we're going to see the boogeyman behind her, obviously.
It's going to be the bloody boogeyman, isn't it? Yeah.
It's going to be the big boogeyman, but it's not. It's a different sort of scare. There is someone there, but as she turns around, it's Rita, who is Lester Billings' wife, obviously widowed wife, and all her kids are dead as well. So she's still living in this house, just not having a good time, really.
It's her that name drops it the first time. She like looks down and says, "We call it the boogeyman."
Oh yeah, she drops it. She goes, "What is this? What are we? Some kind of suicide squad?" She basically says, "What is this? Some kind of boogeyman?" So this is Marin Ireland, who plays Rita Billings. I recognize her from the TV show Why the Last Man, which was good. I like that. It was good when it was cancelled. She was great in it as well.
Real life horrors of inconsistent and little commitment to ongoing production of ongoing stories. So that I haven't watched that.
Yeah, it was good, but it kind of sucks that it got cancelled because it probably makes you not want to watch it so much anymore. So yeah, she basically says that the creature is the boogeyman. It was the culprit behind her children's deaths. She says that like the creature feeds off fear and it enjoys toying with its prey, hence the nightly attacks on Sawyer. I mean, Pennywise style, isn't it? Like fear is flavoring the meat, kind of. So again, it just feels like I know it's a Stephen King story from 1973, but this movie version borrows so much from everywhere.
Yeah,
but it feels familiar, but not in a good way, I guess. Like sometimes things that are familiar can feel quite comforting, can't they? And that improves your like enjoyment of the film. But I don't know, this just feels like, hang on a minute, isn't that pretty much just this and pretty much just that? And yeah.
Well, isn't the Boogeyman original story, is that like a proto It?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could be. I think it's quite a brief story. It's kind of a story about somebody talking about their kids being killed in a therapist's office, and the reveal, spoilers for the Boogeyman story, but I think the reveal is that the therapist is the Boogeyman, like casts off its disguise and is the Boogeyman. Something like that. It's been a while it's a long time since I read it. I think I remember listening to like an audio version of it when this was announced ages ago.
Boogeyman go to the trouble of renting office space?
I think it was like that there was a doctor who rented that office space, but the Boogeyman had like replaced him.
Oh, he went in on his day off.
Went in on his day off. He was at home drinking margaritas, and the Boogeyman was like, "I'm going to go and do
it." The Boogeyman's a registered locum. Like, oh, we've got no one to cover today. Do you mind? What hourly rate you paying? Okay, I'll take it. That's and right. Is my enemy the person I've killed? His kids happens to be booked in today. All right,
brilliant, absolutely ideal. So yeah, she also says it can mimic voices, which we've heard in. That's been in other stuff, isn't it? The voice mimicking.
Yeah.
again, it just feels so familiar. Like
it
feels
it
almost
does the
silly that
voice mimicking and so on, right? And like,
yeah.
yeah.
So basically, she says like light is the only thing, and again that borrows from loads of stuff. Pitch Black, Alan Wake. However, Rita does that thing where she's like, "It's right behind you," and I don't know about you, but in this moment, I thought it's not going to be her; it's going to be her friend, and then she's going to like shoot her friend or something. Thinking it was the boogeyman, but no, it wasn't one of those. It was a legit boogeyman was behind, and this is why I started to get confused because I was like, how far away is this place? And the boogeyman, I thought like the boogeyman had like traveled with the trauma of Lester Billings to get into their house, and it can now it can travel somehow with Sadie back into that, or can it just go back and forth between houses it's already laid claim to?
It can fast travel to any location that it's been to before.
It is a fast travel scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, fast travel. It gets into the menus. I can go to Sadie's house, and I can go to Rita's house as well. So, and the houses that we see here are all covered in like their houses, absolutely chockers with like a black mold everywhere. Gotta get like a paint on that, you know.
Yeah, you want to get the it's not
get yourself
great,
a special treated paint. You want to get the damp out.
Yeah.
So this is a bit I don't get here, Ben. Like I lose a bit of time in this one. So Sadie goes home. We see her walk into the front door, and she's talking to Sawyer. Oh, just leave us alone, will you? I don't want to talk about it. And she goes upstairs. Sawyer's banging on the door, and when she opens it, tell you what, it's not Sawyer. Do you know who it is?
Go on.
Gonna have a guess.
Boogeyman.
It's the boogeyman. That's right.
It's the boogeyman.
And he comes flying in, and he's wazzing stuff in her gob. And then she wakes up having a big coughing fit.
Yeah.
So when did we transition to a dream? Do we assume that she went home and had a normal evening and went to bed?
Yeah, we're assuming that, aren't we? She went home, and then it was just
a dream that recapped.
Just one of those sneaky little scares, isn't it, where you're like, oh, I shouldn't expect anything right now, but we do. Yeah, not long after this, I think, is when Sadie and Will have like a conversation about clearing out the art cabinet.
Yeah, she hears banging in the night, and she thinks, "Oh no, it's not the boogeyman, is it?"
Yeah, it is. Gotta be.
It's not. It's just the
daddy man.
The daddy man.
It's
clearing
just
out all of her mom's art stuff, and she says, oh, "Fucking hell, mate! You want to talk? You should tell me before you get rid of all my mom's precious things." And she goes, "Well, I'm going to keep it all then." He makes take it all down to the basement. Now he's got. I'll tell you what, daughter. Now I've got you up in the middle of the night. If you could just take all your mom's stuff down to the basement.
Yeah, he's like, I know you've been haunted by a boogeyman, right? And I know you're struggling a bit, but get yourself down into the basement where the light don't work and put all these boxes down there. The dad does try to like understand. I think he understands that he is not doing the best for his kids, because he goes, all right, I'm trying to listen. I know. I should have asked you. I know. He knows he's fucked up, but he's still not doing any better.
He's trying to avoid it, right? He's throwing himself into his work. He's not talking about what's going on, and he tries to be a nice dad, but he's not addressing what they're actually going through because he doesn't want to deal with it himself. So Sadie takes everything down to the basement, and she looks through a box of art supplies. She looks through a box of fabrics, and then she finds a box of Chekhov's items, mainly Chekhov's little smoking kit and some spliffs, and Chekhov's lighter. Both there.
Oh, yeah.
Thought I'll pocket those in my inventory for later in case I come up in a puzzle I have to solve.
100%. Lovely lighter as well. So she does the old like, oh, can you move the flame, mum, please, again? And I can't remember exactly what happens. Does she like think she sees something in the background? Oh yeah, she thinks
the mom on like some of the dresses that hung up in there.
Right.
And of course, as we know from earlier, the boogeyman has learned the Tora Laura song.
Oh yeah, of course.
And she's tempted to go to her mom, and then she switches the light, and the boogeyman goes, "Fuck's sake!" and is gone.
Yeah, we do see a flash of her mum's face, and then we see her mum's dress. So it was like we're supposed to think she perhaps thought the dress was her mum, but she does also find a video camera, and she's watching videotapes of her as a baba.
She goes on to watch that at school in the cubicle, as you do.
As you do, yeah. If you came in and you heard someone do it, what are you watching in there? Just watching videos of me as a baby. Sorry, what?
Again?
Excuse me. Yeah, and then when Bethany comes to like speak to her and say like, what happened the other day when someone shot at you with a shotgun? You never told me. I've just been worried this whole time.
Literally, last time I saw you, I gave you a lift to some dilapidated house, and then you ran out while someone was blazing away with a shotgun in there.
And this is just first time I've seen you since.
I gave you a lift home in silence.
Oh wait, yeah, of course, give her a lift home. So she goes, right, let's organize a girls' night at your house to cheer you up. And the girls come round, and Will and Sawyer decide to like stay out of the way, essentially. Will says to Sawyer, you can play as much PlayStation as you like. It's fine. You can eat this old bowl of cheese as well if you like.
He's against that because I don't Shall I sleep in bed with you? Then no, not if you eat that fucking cheese. You'd be fucking stinking the place up.
Stinking the place up. And she throws some cheese in as well, which I liked. Now, this is like... So all the friends come over for a girls' night and they all scream when they arrive, but then it immediately cuts to them all awkwardly sat in her bedroom like, yeah, it's just one of those... Hanging out with people you don't know very well. Maybe you're hanging out with work colleagues. You know, let's all hang out. Let's go for a beer, and then you all sit down and you go, "We've got nothing in common." It seems like that sort of scenario. But then Sadie says, "I've got actual drugs. I've got these. God knows how old they are, but I've got these half-smoked spliffs. Are they half-smoked? They look small.
I've got these ancient spliffs. If you want to blast on these,
I've got these ancient spliffs, right? They're going to be spot on. Yeah, and they all have a little toke, but then Sadie starts coughing it up, which is embarrassing. You know, if it's your first go on the old reefer, it's a bit embarrassing when you start coughing your guts up. But then it just becomes over the top, and then she goes to the toilet and coughs up. And I thought this was quite nice. I like this little touch. Coughs up. Sawyer's tooth still wrapped in that little.
Gets the string, doesn't change that.
So maybe she's thinking that dream was real of the boogeyman putting something in me mouth,
and it probably was.
That girl who was horrible from before is just as horrible again. She's like she was filming stuff with the camera, and initially I was like, oh my god, is she like taped over
her as a baby? And like I think you could. Not going to say it lightly here, Ben. I don't condone violence between any groups, but I think
deserves a slap for this, definitely.
I don't think a slap on this. And I think if you callously taped over your deceased mom, I think a closed fist.
Yeah, closed fist. Even if she did it accidentally, like, yeah, there we go. It's not good. And they put Sadie in the closet, but it seems like they put her in the closet, lock her in as a bit of a joke, but then they can't get her out because of supernatural stuff. The door's locked, and in there is when the boogeyman, like, I guess, an extensive attack on Sadie until she gets out, right?
If this was a game, this would be a QTE.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, to do several dodges it's the US, so the closet is
massive.
As big as everyone else's spare bedroom in this country.
That's true.
Absolutely enormous.
So they all have a big argument. Fight breaks out. They all say, "You're nuts anyway. No one likes you." And the girls will leave.
She does give the worst one a slap at this point.
She does give the worst one a slap, which is to be expected. And then we get like what is a pretty good scene, I think. So while Sawyer's playing PlayStation, what is she playing? Recognize it?
I tried to work this out and I couldn't. I'm not sure it's a real.
Was it that it looked like that? What's that sort of Assassin's Creed like game called? Something Phoenix Rising. Something like that.
Oh, it could have been.
Yeah, it looks a bit like that.
Yes.
Immortals, Phoenix.
I thought,
Rising.
was it Kia Bridge of Souls or something like that as well? I think that's quite a cartoony aesthetic. I thought it could be either of them.
So she's playing this game in the pitch black. It's the only light in the room is from the TV, and the boogeyman crawls into the room, and she turns her back completely to the screen and uses like a little light up bow and arrow, I guess, in the game, which shoots some lights as directions out, as if she's shooting, looking for the boogeyman,
and it brightens up the screen.
That was pretty good, right? Yeah, it was pretty good.
And then it disappears. She crawls down on the sofa, and it sort of passes her. But then Freddy Krueger style, it comes up from behind the TV.
Oh yeah, of course it does. And then attacks her and slings her at the TV. So pretty brutal. We've already seen it kill a kid, so it's gonna throw a kid at a TV.
Yeah.
Damn, that TV's ruined as well, which is devastating.
The TV's ruined. It's devastating, and then the teenagers having stormed out of the house, Sadie and the dad come down. They go, oh, fuck's sake, I deal with one of you's having a problem. I come back and the other one of you's been waxed into the TV.
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
Kids always think, oh, I'm not getting any attention. I'm going to throw myself into the TV.
How do you do that?
She's got a big old egg on her head, hasn't she? Like a cartoon, like lump on her forehead.
They take her to the hospital, and when they're at the hospital, Sadie like tries to communicate with her dad, because her dad's in the room where her mum was taken, like obviously before she passed away. So there's a little bit of that where he's opening up to her a little bit, but not fully.
Seems like a healthy place for the hospital to allow you to go. Can I sit in this room? My wife died. Oh, guess we're not using it.
No one's in there at the moment.
Guess we're not using it. And in this day and age, don't worry, we haven't got to be extra careful about these rooms remaining sterile. So you just sit in there, cry on the table if you want.
Do it. And at that time, Rita calls Sadie, obviously based on the number she left on the fridge earlier, and she says, "I've come up with a way to kill the boogeyman.
I know how to do it. Get here now." And I thought, and again, I was thinking through, saying, is she going to say, you know what? It's about the love of family and support the folks you love. Or is she going to say, yeah, big yawn through that one, because that's not what she says.
She was sleepy when she said it. I was like, if I was Sadie, I would have said, how? What? How? Do you need me to do that? Do you actually need me? Am I coming there?
Do you need me to bring anything?
Yeah. But Sadie just leaves to go and help, and she basically says, I'm taking matters into my own hands because you won't, Dad.
You didn't fuck all about this boogeyman. So
you've done nothing. You don't even believe it exists, you bloody moron. So she gets to the house, and Rita basically immediately knocks her out. Well, not knocks her out, but like punches her and
zip ties her to a pipe.
Zip ties her to a pipe. And her whole plan, so basically days have gone by. Rita on her own in the house. Her whole plan was just use her as bait. Yeah, that's it, innit?
Use her as bait, and then we've set up like a Home Alone style load of shotgun shells.
Yeah, like tripwire things.
And she turns the light off.
I couldn't do that. I'd forget.
Yeah, I'd trip over it. Yeah.
Where's this tripwire? Bang, 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 dead. So yeah, and it works pretty spot on, right? So
she turns the light off. The boogeyman fast travels straight to the house and goes, "Ha, got you!" And then he gets blasted with all those shotgun shells.
He gets blasted, and then Rita continues to like blast it while it's down. And then obviously it's not actually dead because it leaps up, attacking Rita. In the melee, the pipe comes loose. Sadie managed to escape. And yeah, it kills Rita, but Sadie like flees the house. And this is the first, I guess, as she's running away and it's after her, we see it a bit more, right?
Yeah, we see it around that. I think we've seen at this point when it gets close to her before it gets shotgunned, it's got like fingers coming out of its mouth.
The thing is, like, this is another thing. This is really, really common. Like monsters made up of human appendages.
Mm-hmm.
So seen it in Smile. I think there was obviously loads of stuff in The Ritual. And that's the thing. I like it. It's a good look. It's a good aesthetic. It's cool. But I just feel like this film borrows so much from so many different places that it just doesn't have its own identity. That's what it struggles with the most. Just you can't go, oh, the Boogeyman, that's that film, and it feels like it's just an amalgamation of so many other things that I'm like, what even is it?
Yeah, and like I say, the bits with the Boogeyman in it, there's some tension. I think that some of the action scenes, it comes at you fast, and it's like a high octane bit of tension. Just that it struggles to be memorable in the grand scheme of things. Okay, where's the one where it comes out of the shadow here? Where's the one where I think
where's the one where it's like a fake out scare? Where's the one where like
it struggles to do something that's truly unique to this film and not others as well?
Just films like this have got such a distinct pacing and style. It's almost like you could just listen to it and you can pick out exactly where the big scares would be. I don't know. It just feels like, in terms of pacing, it just feels so expected. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, that's the best way you can do it. So she phones her dad and it turns out that Will and Sawyer have just got back to the house.
Yeah, they've been looking for her.
Listen here, Dad, don't go into the house. I am listening. Doesn't listen well enough.
I'm listening as I'm backing into the house, walking backwards into the house.
Pitch black house.
Yeah.
Left no lights on. So he gets yanked off into. They both get yanked off into the darkness. Thankfully, turns out that it's within sprinting distance of the house. So Sadie just
Oh
gets
yeah.
on it.
So she had to get a lift to that house before, but now she's like, I could sprint it if I need
Oh,
to.
now I know it. Actually, it's not as far as I thought.
Yeah.
What I was doing when I was looking how far it went was
Shortcuts.
I was looking at the car directions. Actually, if I'm on foot, you can just cut through it.
Cut through this bit. So she legs it back there. And when she gets there, she finds Sawyer hiding in a closet with Christmas tree lights surrounding her. I think you'd find something that didn't just alternately go red and green and then go off for a while. You'd find something that was a lot better.
You'd adjust the settings, wouldn't you? You'd have it like strobing.
Yeah, you'd have it strobing. And then she says the creature took Will into the basement, and this is where the sisters essentially team up to go and find their dad and save their dad. So even though a shotgun didn't work, Sadie arms herself with a hockey stick.
Yeah.
Because like, she wants Sawyer to stay put, but Sawyer's like, nah.
She says that she saw it bleed. So using the work of
the
philosopher. Oh, it does. It does have time to bleed.
It does have time.
But she turns to the philosophy of something from the very same film. She speaks to Professor Schwarzenegger's teachings that if something bleeds, they can indeed kill it.
If it bleeds, we can kill it. And it's injured as well. I'd say it was injured. I'd be like, if it got shotgunned so many times, then it's got to be injured. But I don't know. I don't know if we get that. So what does Sawyer arm herself with? Just the lights?
Yeah, she's got the lights. So they go down. Originally,
lights,
she said, don't come. But she goes, I'm coming.
No, don't come. What's that from?
That's the Dead 2.
You got it. That's why we worked so well. That's why we worked so well together, all right?
Saving Danny DeVito and Nev Campbell from those things. Yeah, and actually the character models are just looking entirely like them.
Yeah. Also, I think Sawyer is completely she's not very good with the lights. She gets them caught under a corner of a box, and that box like smashes down. They're trying to sneak in.
It spills Chekhov's lighter fluid everywhere.
Spills Chekhov's lighter fluid everywhere. But
the same box that she got Chekhov's lighter and weed from earlier.
Why she's getting proper tangled up with these? She's not very good at maintaining the. No, I'd be like, she's more of a hindrance than a help.
Yeah, but they find the dad. He's in the darkest corner of the basement. Boogeyman's just holding him.
Yeah, Boogeyman didn't straight up kill him because plot, so he's just like nuzzling him. Maybe he likes him.
It's keeping him as like a bait situation. Maybe he's slurping his will to live out of him.
True.
Who knows?
Yeah, that's true.
But there's a fight here that happens in a few stages. She fights she approaches the boogeyman with lights. The dad kind of gets up and gets thumped across a room. Originally, it's biting through it bites through her hockey stick defense. And then this one's weird graphically, because this is when we get a close look at the boogeyman. So its monstrous mouth opens, and then there's like a spooky little baby inside. It's like a little gaunt little face.
A little Death Stranding baby.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to go Total Recall. The little man on his tongue. Yeah. So it's a little fellow in there with glowy eyes. Again, maybe this is a bit it's like Deadlights, isn't it? Because it goes, open your mind. And then it looks like the fingers come out the mouth. It opens up their mouth and little fingers come out. And then I thought it was a bit like The Last of Us, where things were coming out of her mouth, but then graphically her face starts to get all black and moldy. So it's like, is it putting stuff in her or is it sucking stuff out? I can't work this out.
But I find it a bit annoying that it was the dad who ended up striking and saving her. I was like, he hadn't done anything for this. I don't know if he's earned any of these moments. Sawyer should have been the one to sort of save her in that moment.
He stabs it with the thing, gets thumped across the room for his trouble, right?
Yeah. And then they basically finish it off by burning it. So initially,
the mom comes up.
They do a little combo, don't they? So Sawyer sprays her like hairspray thing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And Sadie lights the lighter, which sort of gets it. And then, the mum comes up because they can't.
The lighter's going out, but then the lighter comes back bigger than ever.
Big time.
Yeah. And it's like it goes to the left, like they're always saying, which shows them the way. And then Did I just imagine the mom's voice as I was caught in the moment? Do we get a little sample of it?
Oh, I'm not sure actually. Might have missed that, but
So the spirit of the mom
highly
turns up,
possible.
and it gives them the energy they need. And she's spraying the monster, spraying them. It's like, no, please don't bother, mate. Ah, and it's on the back foot. She runs out of hairspray, and it looks like he's like, ha, fucking sucked in. I've got you now.
Yeah.
But Sawyer comes up and she gives it a dousing with the lighter fluid, and it
Has
burns
anyone
up, burns away.
How many films have got a lighter being tossed in slow motion? I'm gonna say 50.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. Exactly.
Catches it, he gets burned up, and it sort of eradicates all of the black mold which has been spreading around the house all this time because it's burned away. And then metaphorically, do we see that, you know, they're forced to let go of all the things from their mom, so they all get burned up in the fire. I mean, all of their contemporary items as well get burned up on the fire.
Whole house gets burned up. You know,
and then
is it really worth
it? The monster is losing its grip over them as it is all burned away, which is what leads me to believe, Ben, that I've discovered the true enemy and the cure to the boogeyman. So if a Pazuzu gets in your house, you call the exorcist. If it's a poltergeist, you call that little lady who looks a bit like Kim Jong-il to come and exercise your house and to clear it. Who would be the best person to get rid of the boogeyman, in your opinion?
The best person to get rid of the boogeyman? Someone who's adamantly against boogies. I would say Alan Wake, because he's got access to torches.
It's true.
Access to dozens of batteries all over the place.
I think he could help you with the symptom, but not the cause of it. First on my Rolodex call, Marie Kondo, because she'd get rid of all that shit out of your house that's reminding you of the person that's dead and making you susceptible to grief.
You'd be over it straight away.
So you'd be in there, and she
doesn't bring you joy.
Fucking hell, I'm miserable, and a boogeyman's trying to get me. She'll come in and say, "See all this shit? Is it sparking joy?" So actually, it's not actually. I said, right.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite.
It's dousing happiness. So yeah, she would get rid of all that stuff like they have to do without the problems of burning. And also from an insurance point of view, they're going to send out the fire investigators and they say, "But he paint stripper down here and this lighter. This was an inside job.
This is an inside job, 100%.
And all three of your footprints down here. You broke your ankle down here. You've been up. This is terrible." So they go up. They do leave. Everything is gone. Mm-hmm. They then have a final session with Dr. Weller.
A bit of time's gone by, and it looks like they're all doing well at sort of sharing and living through their trauma and getting through it themselves and supporting each other. Dad's a better dad. You know, as a family unit, they seem stronger than ever. They've moved on from their experience, and they're moving on from the death of their mum in a way as well. But yeah, as they leave, basically, see you later. All good, happy ending. You hear the doctor say, "Oh, Sadie, can you just come back in here a second?" She goes back in. No one about.
You sure it's appropriate that you call me back in here when I'm under 18 and my dad as my guardian probably should be here when you talk to me? But yeah, there's no one in there. The bloody cupboard door's open again.
Cupboard door's wide open.
And then the doctor does come in and go, "Oh, can I help you?" I said, "Oh, no."
So we think there's going to be a moment where it's like another scare, but no, she just takes matters into her own hands and just closes the door and says, "I'm not scared. I'm not scared anymore." Shut the door, and that's it. And then credits roll. Some sort of weird song, if I remember right. I can't remember what it was.
I stayed for the song.
Well, it was just a bit weird, a bit out of place. It was Nickelback. I don't know. It wasn't Nickelback. But
never made it as a boogeyman.
Never made it as a boogeyman. I couldn't cut it as a Pennywise either. Oh yeah, that's good. A Pennywise either. Couldn't make it as a Candyman.
Sick aside without a sense of feeling, so he doesn't like Bird Box either.
It's good. We should write about
with all these films we're making. We'll make a cover of.
Yeah, we'll make a cover.
This is how you remind me about horror movies.
Horror movie boogies, horror movie scary people. Okay. Have you got any name game?
I've got a
going
few
down?
for you. Have you got any this week?
Yeah, I got some. I
Right,
reckon we might have some of the same things.
should we round robin? I'll go first if you like. What's the synopsis?
Let's round robin. Okay, so wait, what is the synopsis? I've lost it. Let's just say a family are tormented by a supernatural presence after the death of their. Oh no, wait. Here we go. A teenage girl and her younger sister find themselves plagued by a sadistic presence in their house and struggle to get their grieving father to pay attention before it's too late.
Okay.
To a boogeyman.
So, teenage girl and her younger sister struggle against a supernatural force in their house. And what this supernatural force does is that he comes out at night in the dark and he shoves your head under his arm and just rubs the top of your hair with it. With
exactly the same as what I've got. It's the Boogeyman.
The Boogeyman.
It's the Boogeyman. That feels horrible as well. I feel like if that happened to you in the middle of the night, unexpectedly, you'd be terrified.
That'd suck the life right out of you, wouldn't it?
It'd suck the life right out of you. Okay. This film is two girls coming to terms with the death of their mother, and then they get plagued by the existence of a boogeyman who comes out of his cupboard in the middle of the night and just gozzes in your face.
The Boogeyman.
The Boogeyman, correct.
Or the Boogeyman, yeah.
Or the Boogeyman. That's also pretty disgusting, right?
It is horrible. Both horrible things that the Boogeyman would probably do. The one I've got for you now is that a teenage girl and a younger sister finally do come to terms with the passing of their mother by meeting like an elderly female role model who teaches them how to dance all of the greatest songs of her era.
An elderly role model, just Boogeyman, Boogie Mum,
not Boogeyman. Like
Boogie
turns
Nan.
out, actually, yeah, Boogie Nan, Boogie Gran. I would also accept
Boogie Nan / Boogie Gran.
The Boogie Nan.
It's the bloody Boogie Nan. Also terrifying. Okay, this one is if you play truant at school, this thing is going to come and get you and slurp you off and just basically enforce the rules of the school day upon you.
Oh, I think regionally we have different names for the person that looks for you if you wag off school.
Oh, sorry, not the person who looks for you. It's just another word for that. I don't use this word for it.
Is it the truant van?
No, nearly. It's a word for that.
Oh no. Is it a van? Comes
No.
to get you. No, it's still a man.
You're playing something when you do it.
The hooky man.
Yeah, that's it. The hooky man. Playing hooky. Playing hooky. Is that an American thing? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like I grew up in a darker place with a truant van would come and capture you like the dog catcher.
Just fires a tranquilizer out into your neck.
Fires a tranquilizer, then puts you like a massive long net over you.
There we go. You got any more?
Yeah. So after his like a teenage girl and her younger sister found themselves in terrible danger when resurrected after killing himself and his girlfriend following poor correspondence from a rapper who was a big fan of. A ghost man dresses a little bit like, but not exactly like the main gang of hooligans from A Clockwork Orange.
There's so much going on there.
The resurrected ghost of a man that killed himself and his girlfriend after he didn't get very much letter correspondence from his favorite rapper.
Okay. Something Stan.
Yeah, and in his new form, he dresses a bit like, but not exactly the same as his favorite gang of violent criminals from A Clockwork Orange.
It's Droogie Stan.
Droogie Stan. Very good. The Druggy Stan.
That's good. I was confused. There are so many elements to that. Okay, and the last one from me is a creature haunts the residents of a town on the north coast of Cornwall, seaside resort, haunts them. Sometimes you might go there for a bit of surfing, but this creature ain't having none of that. It's getting you.
Now, my knowledge of North Cornish resorts. Is it Lou?
No.
No.
Think North Cornish resorts. Think what is big for surfing. Fistral Beach.
Oh, the Nuki Man.
The Nuki Man. I could have done a far more interesting play on that. Like, I don't know, but yeah, the Nuki Man.
Right, I've got one more for you, Ben. Okay. A teenage girl and her sister are forced to confront a supernatural presence in their house, but unlike the Boogeyman, who imitates voices and slurps you off into the dark, this man mostly talks about how his house and his windows and the car that he has and his girlfriend are all of a primary color. Doesn't stop singing about it.
The Bluey Man.
The Bloogie Man.
The Bloogie Man.
The Bloogie Man. Dabba dee, dabba die.
Dabba die. If I was green, I would die. Not official lyrics. Some people do add that to think they're funny. There we go. That was good. That was a good installment of the Boogeyman. I guess we've got to rate the movie. What are we thinking? I guess we've said a lot about it already. So in terms of just sort of explaining why,
yeah.
I think.
Do you want to go first, Ben, or shall I?
I mean, I was going to go for a C+. I think that's quite, because I didn't hate it. Like with something like Smile, like I felt genuinely quite put out by it and annoyed by it, annoyed by the scares, annoyed by the fact it seemed to borrow from so many other places. It has some good bits about it. Smile does, but I think the Boogeyman for this, I think tonally, I was more on board with it than anything else, despite the fact but I think the reason I'm going to go as low as C+ is because it borrows so much from everywhere that it just fails to have its own identity. Mm-hmm. This film is completely void of identity. Like if you think the Boogeyman, you think 10 other films before you think of this, because it does, borrow from so many different places. I think the main performance, a couple of the performances of the kids is great. But yeah, the creature design, if I came into this and I could have written down what I don't want the creature to be, I would have written leggy venom. And the fact that it is a leggy venom just made me like, oh, really? I just think it's the kind of a look of a creature that is impossible to look that good because it just looks CGI. It just looks heavily CGI. And I think with something like this, it would have really benefited from practical effect. Maybe it had some practical effects, I don't know. But I think it would have benefited from that. And no. So C+ for me, I think, Andy. What are you saying?
Yeah, I'm for very similar reasons to what you said, Ben. But because I felt this film was so middle of the road, like competently made, like, you know, there are good performances in it. There is good technical direction. There's some really good shots from a camera work perspective. So, you know, like the bed flip when she puts her head under there.
Yeah, that was great.
I think there's some good stuff about that. But for the reasons you've said, like narratively, thematically, I've seen it so many times now, and I've seen it done in more memorable ways. Like I know your mileage on the kid from the Babadook may vary, but you remember it. You remember things about the Babadook, and you remember the visuals, you remember the sound design. Like there are things that you can remember from that, and the narrative carries on through to the end. So I struggled with that bit. Like, you know, here's the metaphor, but it is also a monster that you can fight. As I said earlier, it was strange for me. So as a result, I feel it makes it the perfect middle film. I'm not annoyed that I watched it. There was nothing about it technically to dislike, but it's a C because it's right in the middle. What C is intended for, solid, average performance that it came out. And I think the biggest film of the biggest or only crime of this film is that it's kind of from a business choice point of view, is that it wasted a very talented director that who is very capable of doing something more interesting with this idea, given the right amount of freedom and right amount of base stuff that you can work with to do something interesting with.
Yeah, very generic. I think it's probably like one of the most generic of films from the last like 2 or 3 years, like supernatural, not like gory films, but supernatural sort of spooky films. So yeah, C+ for me and C for you. Did you say?
Yeah, standard C from me.
Standard C.
If you don't mind.
There we go. Then that is the Boogeyman. Thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at patreon.com/horror hangout. Thanks to our current patrons, including John Crinnan, Ben Scaife, Stephen Christopher, Toby Miller, Scott Rigby, Lane Spencer, Ollie Child, Leslie Carla, Julia Bilgren, Nick Spill, Troy Birch, Rosalind Harnias, and Pazuzu. Thanks to Taj Easton for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a rating or review and head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors for more. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Horror Hangout Podcast. Search that, you find us. Next week we're doing Little Shop of Horrors. Little Shop of Horrors,
right?
With returning guest Stu Freeman, who joined us for our episode a while ago on the Taking of Deborah Logan. He's back to talk all about a horror musical. Guess what, Andy? I've never seen it before.
You've never seen it? My goodness, Ben, you're in for a treat. What a time.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, but until then, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next week.
Goodbye, everybody. Bye.
See you later. Don't get boogeymaned.
Yeah, watch out for the boogeyman. Bye.
Bye.